Somebody is about to be forced to say your name out loud. Not whisper it, not mention it in passing. Say it publicly, in a room where they cannot take it back, in front of the very people who watch them dismiss you. I know that sounds like a strange way to begin, but if you are watching this right now, I believe you needed to hear it before anything else, because you have spent a long season being the person everybody talked about and nobody talked to. You were the topic and never the guest. You were the cautionary tale in somebody else's story, and you learned to live with it. You learned to swallow it. You built a whole quiet life around not making a scene about what was done to you. That season is closing. There is a word in Scripture that most people never hear preached. It is the word Kairos. In the language the New Testament was written in, there were two different words for time. One of them was Chronos, that is the clock. That is the calendar on your wall. That is Monday turning into Tuesday, February turning into March. One more birthday, one more year gone. Chronos is time that just passes. It does not care about you. It does not stop for your pain, and it does not speed up for your prayers. But Kairos is the other kind. Kairos is not the clock. Kairos is the moment. It is the appointed hour. It is the instant when everything that has been building underground finally breaks the surface. Kairos does not tick. Kairos strikes. And here is what I want you to hold on to through this entire message. God does not do justice on Chronos. He does justice on Kairos. That is why it has felt so slow. That is why you have prayed the same prayer for 3 years and heard nothing. That is why you watched the person who lied about you get promoted, get invited, get celebrated, while you sat in your car in a parking lot after work, trying to figure out why obedience felt like losing. You were reading your life on a clock. Heaven was writing it on a moment. Think about that for a second. Everything you have been calling a delay may have been a fuse. Let me take you into a room in the book of Esther, because I do not think we talk about this scene the way we should. There is a night in that story where the king cannot sleep. That is it. That is the whole miracle. The most powerful man in the empire is lying in his bed, and sleep will not come to him. So he does what a bored king does. He calls for the record books. The boring ones. The official chronicles of the kingdom. He wants somebody to read him the minutes of the empire, until his eyes get heavy. And the servant opens the scroll, and out of hundreds of pages, he lands on one entry, one paragraph. A man named Mordecai, a nobody, a Jew who sat at the king's gate, had once uncovered a plot to assassinate the king. He had saved the king's life, and the record showed something strange. Nothing had been done for him. No reward, no recognition, no mention. He saved the empire and went back to sitting at the gate, and the empire moved on and forgot him completely. Now I want you to feel the weight of that, because I know some of you are living inside that exact paragraph right now. You did the right thing. You told the truth when it cost you. You covered for somebody who never covered for you. You kept the family together. You held the ministry up when nobody was watching. You caught the plot, and nothing was done for you. And you have made peace with it in the ugly way, not the healed way, the tired way. You told yourself that is just how life goes. Good people get overlooked. Loud people get rewarded. You stopped expecting anything, and you called that maturity. But watch what happens in that palace. The king sits up in his bed, and he asks one question. What honor has been given to this man? And the servants answer, nothing has been done for him. Now understand, Mordecai is not in the room. Mordecai is not lobbying. Mordecai is not making his case, not posting about it, not gathering supporters, not writing a letter explaining why he deserves better. Mordecai is asleep. Mordecai is out there in the dark, with no idea that at that very hour, in a room he has never been invited into, the most powerful man on earth is asking why he was never honored. That is Kairos. You do not schedule that. You cannot manufacture that. You cannot network your way into a king's insomnia. That is heaven reaching into a man's night and turning the pages of a book to the exact paragraph with your name on it. And here is the part that ought to make you sit forward. In that same story, There is a man named Haman who has spent the entire night building a gallows for Mordecai. 75 feet tall. He built it in his own yard. He was so confident that he could not even wait for morning. And in the morning, Haman walks into the palace to ask permission to hang Mordecai, and before he can open his mouth, the king asks him a question. What should be done for the man the king delights to honor? And Haman, thinking it is about himself, describes the most extravagant honor he can imagine. The royal robe, the king's own horse, a parade through the city square, and a nobleman leading the horse, crying out to the whole city, "This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor." And the king says, "Perfect. Go do all of that. For Mordecai, I need you to see what actually happened there." Justice did not come as a quiet apology. It did not come as a letter in the mail. Justice came as a public procession through a city that had watched Mordecai be nothing. The whole city was shocked. And the man who built the gallows was the one holding the reins. That is what I want to talk to you about today, because I do not think your justice is coming quietly either. There is a kind of vindication that God does in private. He heals you. He restores you. He puts your heart back together. And nobody ever knows how bad it got. That is real, and that is precious, and some of you have already received that. But there is another kind. There is a justice that God does in front of people, on purpose, in the square. Not because he is petty. God is never petty, but because a lie was told publicly, and a public lie requires a public correction. You were slandered in a room, so God will honor you in a room. You were dismissed in front of a crowd, so he will lift you in front of a crowd. And the community that watched you fall, the same people who went quiet, who chose sides, who looked at the floor, when you walked by, they are going to be the witnesses of what he does. Not because you need their applause, but because heaven does not clean up a mess halfway. You have been asking God for peace. I understand that. But there are seasons where God is not offering you peace. He is offering you a parade. Let me tell you about another man who was written out of the record. Joseph is in a prison cell in Egypt. He is there because he refused to sin. Understand that he did not fall into that cell. He was thrown there for doing right. And he interprets a dream for the king's cupbearer. And he tells him one simple thing: when you get out, remember me. And the cupbearer gets out, and he forgets him. The scripture is almost cruel in how plainly it says it. The chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. 2 more years. I want you to sit in those 2 years with me, because that is where most of you are living. That is the part nobody preaches. Everybody wants to preach the palace. Nobody wants to preach the 2 years of being forgotten by the one person who could have gotten you out. 2 years of watching the light move across a stone floor. 2 years of hearing footsteps in the hall and thinking, maybe today. 2 years of your name not coming up in a single conversation that mattered. And then Pharaoh has a dream, and nobody can interpret it. Not the magicians, not the wise men. The whole court is silent. And in that silence, in that gap, the cupbearer suddenly remembers. He says, I have a fault to confess today. There was a man in the prison. He interpreted my dream exactly. Kairos, not Chronos. Chronos is the 2 years. Kairos is the dream that Pharaoh could not shake. At the exact hour, when the only man who could explain it was rotting in a cell that everyone had forgotten, and they rushed Joseph out. Scripture says, they hurried him, they shaved him, they changed his clothes, they brought him up out of the dungeon, and by the end of that same day he is second in command of the most powerful nation on earth. One day, after 13 years, that is how Kairos works. It does not repay you slowly. It does not give you back your years in installments. It compresses everything you should have had into a single afternoon and hands it to you in front of everybody. And here is the part that undoes me. When his brothers finally stand in front of him, the same brothers who threw him in a pit, who sold him, who dipped his coat in blood and lied to their own father's face, they do not recognize him, but they bow. They bow before they know. And I want to tell you something about the people who hurt you. The ones who owe you an apology may not even be the ones who bring you your justice. God is not limited to the people who wronged you. He can raise up an entire community that has nothing to do with your past and use them to honor what your past tried to erase. Now, I want to be honest with you about something, because I am not here to sell you a fantasy. The waiting is not neutral. The waiting does something to you. Some of you have been in the 2 years so long that you have started to believe the story your enemies told about you. That is the real damage. Not the lie itself. The way the lie starts, sounding like the truth after you have heard it long enough, with nobody defending you. You started shrinking. You started apologizing for taking up space. You walked into rooms already braced for rejection. You got small on purpose, so nobody could accuse you of being too much again. And I need to tell you plainly, that is not humility. That is a wound wearing humility's clothes. Real humility knows exactly who it is and simply refuses to boast about it. What you have been doing is not that. What you have been doing is hiding. My name is George, and I have been doing this a long time, walking beside people who feel called and cornered at the same time. And if there is one thing I have learned, it is that God does not vindicate a version of you that you have already abandoned. He vindicates the real one, the one He made, the one that was there before the humiliation taught you to fold yourself in half. So, before the Kairos comes, He is going to do some work in you. He is going to come and find the person you buried, and He is going to call them back out. And here is what most people miss about this moment. There is a reason God waits until the room is full. If God had honored Mordecai the day he saved the king, it would have been a footnote, a nice gesture, a small reward, quickly forgotten. But God let it sit in the record. He let it stay unpaid. Why? Because He was waiting until the gallows was built. Read that again. God waited until the enemy had fully committed. He waited until Haman had spent all his money, made all his plans, built the structure, told his wife, invited his friends. He waited until there was no way back. And then He moved. Because the honor of Mordecai and the fall of Haman had to happen on the same day, in the same city, in front of the same people. It was not 2 events, it was 1. And that is what has been happening in your life. You thought God was absent. He was not absent. He was letting it build. He was letting them talk. He was letting them get comfortable. He was letting the whole thing rise to full height, because a small correction would not have been enough to answer what was done to you. You do not need a small correction. You need a reversal. Let me sit with you in one more scene, and then I want to say something important to you. There is a woman in the Gospel of Luke who has been bent over for 18 years. She cannot stand up straight. For 18 years, she has seen nothing but feet and floor. She has not looked a single person in the eye. She has not seen the sky, and she is in the synagogue, which tells you something. She never stopped showing up. 18 years bent, and she is still in the house of God on the Sabbath. Some of you understand that. You have been showing up broken for years. You sing with a cracked voice. You serve while you are still bleeding. Nobody knows, and Jesus sees her. She does not ask. She does not push through a crowd. She does not cry out. He just sees her across the room, bent, invisible. One more woman in the back, and He calls her forward. And He says, "Woman, you are set free." And she stands up. For the first time in 18 years, she is looking at faces, and the whole synagogue is looking back at her. Now the religious leader in that room got angry. He complained that Jesus healed on the wrong day. And Jesus turned on him with the sharpest words. And Scripture says His opponents were humiliated, and the whole crowd was rejoicing at the wonderful things He was doing. There it is again, same day, same room. Her lifted, them shamed, the community rejoicing. That is not a coincidence in the text. That is a pattern in the heart of God. When He restores you in the presence of the very thing that resisted you. And the crowd, that had no idea what to do with you for 18 years, suddenly has to reckon with what God just did. There are messages that pass through your eyes, and there are messages that pass through your spirit. If something in you recognized itself while watching, don't dismiss it. That is the Spirit confirming what was already written. The secret protocol carries 7 keys that unveil what heaven deposited in you before you ever arrived. Things no one around you has ever been able to name. It comes with the full audiobook for your moments of prayer, silence, and encounter with God. And you also receive the Awakening Map, the guide that illuminates the 5 seasons of spiritual awakening, revealing with precision exactly where you are and what comes next. The link is pinned in the first comment, but only for a limited time. Don't let this moment pass without a response. Now let me tell you what to do while you wait, because Kairos is not passive. First, stop building your own gallows. I mean that. Some of you have been constructing something in your yard, and you think it is for them, but it is going to hang you. You have been rehearsing the confrontation. You have been drafting the message you will send when you finally have proof. You have been imagining the day you walk into that room and say everything you have been holding. Put it down. Mordecai did not build anything. Mordecai sat at the gate and did his job, and wore his mourning openly before God. And he did not lift one hand against Haman. And God handled Haman so completely that Haman ended up on his own scaffold. The moment you take vengeance into your hands, you take yourself out of the Kairos. You cannot be the victim and the executioner in the same story. You have to choose. And if you choose to execute, you forfeit the parade. Vengeance is mine, he says. I will repay. That is not a suggestion to be nice. That is a jurisdiction claim. He is telling you that this case has been moved to a higher court, and you are not licensed to practice there. Second, keep the record clean. The whole reversal in Esther hinges on one thing, the record. What was actually written down. Mordecai's honor came out of the Chronicles, because the Chronicles were true. So live in such a way that when God opens your record in the middle of somebody's sleepless night, there is nothing on that page he has to be embarrassed by. Do not answer the lie with a lie. Do not fight dirty because they fought dirty. Do not become the thing that hurt you. Keep your page clean, because the page is going to be read out loud. Third, do not despise the gate. Mordecai sat at the king's gate. It was not a throne. It was not an office. It was a gate. It was the place where ordinary people sat and waited and watched the powerful walk past. And that gate is where his justice found him. Some of you are trying to leave your gate. You think God cannot honor you in a job this small, in a town this quiet, in a life this ordinary. You are trying to climb somewhere impressive so that God will have somewhere impressive to find you. He does not need that. He found Joseph in a prison. He found Gideon in a winepress. He found David with sheep. He found Mordecai at a gate. He found a bent woman in the back of a synagogue. Stay faithful at the gate. The gate is not your ceiling. The gate is your address, and heaven knows exactly where it is. I want to say something now that I think is the real reason you clicked on this. You are afraid that it is too late. That is the actual fear. Not that God cannot do it, you believe he can. The fear is that too much time has gone by, that the window closed, that the people who wronged you have already won, already moved on, already built the life they built on top of what they took from you, and that whatever God does now will just be a consolation prize. Listen to me carefully. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. He was 17 when they threw him in the pit. 13 years. And Egypt did not say, well, it is a shame he lost his 20s. Egypt made him the second most powerful man alive. The bent woman was bent for 18 years. Jesus did not say, unfortunately, you have missed too much. He called her a daughter of Abraham and stood her up in front of everyone. Sarah was 90. Moses was 80. The thief on the cross had about 3 hours. God is not working with your clock. He never was. That is the entire point of Kairos. The moment is not late because it has not happened yet. The moment is not late because you are older. The moment arrives at the appointed hour, And the appointed hour is not measured in years, it is measured in readiness. Yours, and theirs, and the room's. The room has to be ready too. Do you understand that? Part of the reason for the delay is that the community that is going to witness your justice was not assembled yet. The people who need to see it were not in the room yet. Some of them did not even know you existed a year ago. God is not just preparing you, He is gathering an audience. So here is what I believe is happening, and I want you to hear this as a word and not as a nice sentiment. There is a record with your name on it, and it has been sitting unpaid. Everything you did that nobody rewarded, it is written. Every time you told the truth and it cost you. Every time you forgave somebody who never asked. Every time you stayed when leaving would have been easier, and nobody would have blamed you. Every time you carried a weight that was not yours because there was nobody else to carry it. It is all in the book. And there is going to come a night, and you will not even know it is happening, because you will be asleep, or driving home, or standing in your kitchen doing nothing important at all when the book opens to your page. And the question gets asked in a room you have never been in, by people you have never met. What has been done for this one? And the answer will come back. Nothing. Nothing has been done for them. And that word nothing is going to be the last quiet word of your old season. Because in the story, the word nothing is immediately followed by everything. The robe, the horse, the city square, the voice crying out in front of the whole community. This is what is done for the one the king delights to honor. And the people who watched you get small are going to have to watch you get lifted. And some of them will be glad. And some of them will not be able to look at you. And it will not matter, because you will not be doing it for them. You will be doing it because a king who never forgot you finally opened the book. Do not go numb 3 feet from the moment. Do not stop showing up at the gate. Do not build the gallows. Do not touch the vengeance. Keep the record clean. Kairos does not knock. Kairos arrives. Now I want you to do something for me before you leave this video, and I want you to be specific about it. In the comments, tell me one thing you did that nobody ever thanked you for. Not a general thing, a real one. The thing you actually did, the meeting where you told the truth and paid for it, the family member you carried, the job where you covered for someone who never covered for you, the years you gave to something that gave you nothing back. Write it down, even if you have never said it out loud to anyone, because I want to read those. And I want you to see, when you scroll through that comment section, that you are not the only one whose page in the book is sitting there unpaid. There is an entire community underneath this video full of people who did the right thing in the dark. And I have a feeling heaven is about to start reading names. This channel is created without ads and without platform income. If these messages have touched your heart, strengthened your faith, or helped you during a difficult moment, and you'd like to support this work, you can use the QR code on your screen or the contribution link in the pinned comment. Thank you for walking this path with us.